Hello, welcome to another video from EarnPed.com. I'm Stevie B, happy to have you all with me today. Let's take some big sips to get this one started. So today I want to tell you guys a story, a little bit of the history of Entropia, to set the stage for something that I cannot believe more people aren't talking about, because it is a huge, huge change to the game. And if you'll stick with me to the end of today's video, I will explain to you how this could have a tremendous, tremendous impact on the value of your Crystal Palace shares, and why we can expect to see a jump in the income from our Crystal Palace shares, as well as a jump in the current value of our Crystal Palace shares. So guys, let's get right into it. Once upon a time, there was a planet called Calypso, and the development team behind the game Entropia Universe decided to sell off a special area known as Crystal Palace. It is an area in space near planet Calypso. And the players would go to this place, and they would go into the domes, and they would hunt the creatures there. And one of the creatures was called Aurli. And they would hunt 5,000 of these creatures in order to get access to a special set of caves below Crystal Palace. Once you had access to those caves, you could go in there and you could hunt the Aurli bosses. And if you were strong enough, and if you had enough gear, and if you were brave and had the fortitude to do so, you might be lucky enough to take down an Aurli boss, and once in a blue moon, you would get a Mutated Aurli Bone Piece. These Mutated Aurli Bone Pieces were exceedingly, exceedingly rare. They were exceedingly, exceedingly valuable, because they allowed players to do the very first armor plate upgrade chain ever inside of Entropia Universe. Nowadays, we're familiar with armor plate upgrade chains. On Next Island, we have the Incision Plate upgrade chain. On Planet Arcadia, we've got the Smuggler Genetics Lab instance on Arcadia Moon, where we can do the Lunar Plate upgrade chain. On Planet Cyrene, we've got the Imperium Armor Plate upgrade chain. But it all started on Crystal Palace with the 5B Armor Plate upgrade chain. Now, Buzz, who owned Crystal Palace, was also given a 5B Unlimited Armor Plating blueprint. And he was able to manufacture the very valuable 5B armor plates. These are some of the most useful armor plates in-game that just about every player wants to have at least one set for whenever they go out and do their hunting. So this seems to be either a unique or almost unique blueprint. From what we've been able to tell, there's obviously at least the one copy that Buzz has always had. As far as we're aware, he still has it. There might be a second or even a third version of the 5B plate blueprint. We're just not 100% sure on that part. But needless to say, Buzz would make the 5B plates, and people would buy them because they're great armor plates. And for those people lucky enough to go into the caves and find the Aurli bosses and get those Mutated Bone Pieces, they could upgrade these plates through the standard chain. They could adjust them, improve them, modify them, and augment them. However, this chain was done under the old school upgrade system. Under the old system, you had to turn in 2 of the previous item to get 1 of the next item. So you would have to turn in 2 regular 5B plates plus all the upgrade stuff and those Mutated Bone Pieces in order to get 1 adjusted 5B plate. Then you would have to turn in 2 of the adjusted 5B plates to get an improved 5B plate. Then you had to turn in 2 improved 5B plates to get a modified plate, and 2 modified plates to get an augmented plate. This was a very tedious process, and because the Mutated Bone Pieces were so hard to get your hands on from the Aurli bosses, most people never even attempted it, and those people that did never got very far into the chain. Now, here's what's unique about the Crystal Palace 5B plate upgrade mission. There is no perfected step. The entire chain stops at augmented. Now, as you probably know from the other armor plate upgrade chains, when you begin the process by adjusting it, You upgrade the protections the plate provides, but you also get a special buff of a 1% block chance, meaning if a mob is going to damage you 100 times, it will block it 1% of the time. When you improve the plates, you get a 2% block chance. When you mod the plates, you get a 3% block chance. Augmenting them gets you a 4% block chance. And then all of these armor plate upgrade chains max out at a perfected plate with a 5% block chance. However, Crystal Palace, where this upgrade armor plate mission chain started, never had a perfected step. It stopped at Augmented, which had a 4% block chance. Now, why they never added a perfected step from the beginning, who can say? I have no idea. Maybe they were going to, but they saw how many people were having trouble even getting to the adjusted, improved, and modified steps and decided to not go further after they'd created the augmented step. But for whatever reason, they stopped at augmented. Now, years went by, some plates were upgraded, and Crystal Palace eventually got turned in to an IPO. We got the Crystal Palace shares. Buzz decided to sell it, and as you know, the rest is history. It was the first property put on the Entropia exchange. Everybody bought the Crystal Palace shares, and that's all been well documented ever since. When they did this, they changed the mission to get into the caves below Crystal Palace. It used to be kill 5,000 Oriole. Now it's a progress bar. It's still about the same amount of ped cycled. It's still about the same 5,000 kills, but you still have to fill the progress bar before you can get into the cave. Now what's interesting is the domes on top of Crystal Palace are the tax land area. That's where all the revenue for Crystal Palace shares comes from. The caves underneath where the Oriole bosses are, where you get the mutated bone pieces, those have never been taxed and are currently non-taxed areas. Those do not feed into the Crystal Palace shares. Only the stuff on the surface does. So now that we've gone over a brief history of Crystal Palace and the 5B plates and the armor plate upgrade chain, I want to blow your mind by showing you something. And this is where it's going to drastically affect your Crystal Palace shares income and value once people start talking about this. I don't think a lot of people know that this has happened. If we go over to the East Scalia Mountains, we have the new Spina event, the new Flight of the Scarabs event with the Spina mob. And we checked this out briefly when the event very first started. These Spina mobs, the lowest level ones are here at East Scalia Mountains. They're level 50, and they hit like a Mack truck, which means we need appropriate armor, appropriate DPS, an appropriate size team, and we need appropriate skills. There are even higher level ones over at Ashy Rig, and there's a daily mission that we can do with CDF Scout Thomas Beck, and the daily mission rewards us with a little bit of Blazer Fragments. The Spina mobs have this new resistance feature where when we scan them, we can see the resistance types for the damage types they're resistant to, and we can pick our weapons accordingly. Personally, I believe all mobs already have resistance. We just do not know the damage types except for with this new Spina mob. I think this is a new thing they're going to implement and roll out, which I think is great because I think it's already there, but now we're able to actually see it. But here's what people have not been talking about. If we go to auction, let me be sure you guys can see the auction properly. Over here on the far left, just outside of view, is the categories for auction. And if I pull up those categories and go to blueprints, and I type in perfected, look at what has recently been discovered. Armor plate 6A perfected, limited, blueprint limited, and check this one up here out. Armor plating 5B perfected, limited, blueprint limited. They never created a perfected version of the 5B plate. When you went to Crystal Palace and you were upgrading your 5B plates through the original armor plating upgrade mission chain, remember it stopped at Augmented. There was never a perfected version. But now we have a perfected version. Yes, it's limited in nature. That means it provides the full protection so long as the plate has any TT value remaining. However, once the plate reaches 0 TT value, being a limited item, we cannot repair it. We simply have to get rid of it because it has no more value, no more utility, and we have to get another one. So unlike the armor plate upgrade chain on Crystal Palace, this is limited in nature, but this is now a way to get a perfected version of the 5B plate that was never implemented into that initial chain on Crystal Palace. And now they've also given us a 6A perfected plate, again limited in nature, so full protection while it has TT value. When it reaches 0 TT, no more TT, no more utility, get rid of it, get another one. This is amazing. That means that these plates are going to have tremendous value from a utility standpoint. If you're doing events, if you're doing high-level mobs, or if you're doing certain actions in-game where you're hunting for markup, these are going to be incredibly valuable to add to your armor. These are going to be a big part of your planning when it comes to picking out the kind of protection that you're going to be wanting. This is huge. Now, the blueprints are also limited. Hold on one second, guys. I got a message. Hold on one sec. So the blueprints are also limited. Now that means that we can only use it for a certain number of clicks. We only have a certain number of attempts to try and make a certain number of plates. And then, poof, the blueprint goes away. We have to get our hands on another blueprint. So with this 5B perfected blueprint right here, I could get it off auction right now, and I would have 18 attempts to try and craft the 5B plate perfected. With the 6A perfected blueprint underneath it, it's got 45 attempts. So I would have 45 chances to make the 6A perfected plate, and then poof, the blueprint would go away, and I would have to get another one. So let's take a look real quick, and we can see that this is a level 6 blueprint on the 6A, and on the 5A, again, it's a level 6 blueprint. And we can see they've got pretty ridiculously high markup, which rightfully so. They're probably pretty hard to loot. But now I want to put it all together. Let's look at what you actually need to make these armor plates. In order to make these armor plates, let's pull up both of them side by side. We need 1 Spina Royal Carapace, 12 Spina Drone Carapace, 10 Spina Soldier Carapace, and 16 Spina Worker Carapace. Now, Royal, Drone, Soldier, and Worker, those are the maturity classes, the sizes of the Spina that we can hunt at the East Scalia Mountains and Ashy with this new Flight of the Scarabs event. So these carapaces are going to drop from the Spina, and obviously the Royal Spina will drop the Royal Carapace, the Drone Spina will drop the Drone Carapace, so on and so forth. But then, look at the next item. 3 Aurli Bone Pieces. And then we also need 100 basic sheet metal and 20 surface hardener components. But notice something. 3 Aurli Bone Pieces per attempt. Not mutated Aurli Bone Pieces. Just regular good old Aurli Bone Pieces. Well, guess what, guys? You don't have to go into the caves below Crystal Palace in order to get the regular Aurli Bone Pieces. You can get this just hunting the regular mobs in the regular domes on top of Crystal Palace. There's no need to go into the caves below Crystal Palace or to worry about the Aurli bosses or trying to loot those impossible to get mutated bone pieces, you can just use the good old regular Aurli bone pieces to try and craft these 2 blueprints. Now remember, the Aurli bosses are hard to take down, and the mutated bone pieces are exceedingly rare, and the caves are non-taxed. Well, guess what? None of that matters if you're making these plates, because these plates you just need the regular Aurli bone piece, which drops from the regular Aurli mob in the regular domes on Crystal Palace surface, and what generates income for the Crystal Palace shares? Hunting those mobs in those domes. And what values the Crystal Palace shares? The potential to generate income that the Crystal Palace shares have. So I think there's a ton of people that don't know that these blueprints have been discovered. I think there's a ton of people that don't understand that the Aurli bone pieces are needed to make them. And I think even fewer people understand this means that you don't need to go into the caves and deal with the Aurli bosses. You could just hunt regular Aurli on Crystal Palace in the domes that are a taxed land area that feed the CP shares in order to get them. If everybody understood this, I think there would be a ton of people at Crystal Palace right now harvesting Aurli bone pieces. And I think that would increase the income for the Crystal Palace shares. And since the value of the shares is based off the income they generate, I think we would see the value of the shares themselves go up. I think this is great for those people who bought Crystal Palace shares, because I think that these plates are going to be exceedingly high demand items. People are going to want these 6A plates and these 5B plates for events, for running high level mobs, mobs that do large amounts of damage, or specialty situations where they're hunting a mob that has the potential for very good markup, loot, and rare items. And since these plates are going to be in such high demand, that means the Aurli bone pieces will have even more demand than usual. Since they're going to have more demand, we're going to need more supply, which means more people are going to go farm them, more revenue for the CP shares, more value as a result of more revenue. I just think this is a simple case of people don't even know these things exist yet. People haven't heard about it, people haven't been talking about it, and people don't understand what a big deal this is to finally have a 5B perfected plate and now a 6A perfected plate, and for it to use the Aurli bone piece, which we don't even have to go into the caves to get. This is huge. This is an absolute game changer. For those of you who are going to be going out trying to farm the materials yourselves, keep in mind that these carapaces are going to have markup as well. I told you if you'd stay with me to the end of the video, we would talk about how this was going to affect your CP shares and other opportunities you would have. Well, obviously, I just explained how it's going to affect your CP shares moving forward. But now let's look at what we can do to make PED in other ways. If we're going out and we're trying to farm the carapaces, notice these carapaces have very high markup as well. Now, you might also notice, for those of you who are really paying attention, that there's a pristine Spina carapace that we have not yet talked about. It wasn't even on the inputs list. Why is that? Why does it still have markup? There is another blueprint that has already been discovered called the pristine bioplating something or another. And it seems to be an armor plate made from these Spina pristine carapaces. I do not know what the armor plate itself looks like. I saw the blueprint itself be discovered, but I did not actually get to see the link for the pristine infused bioplating. I'm sorry, that's the name of the blueprint, pristine infused bioplating. So I saw the pristine infused bioplating discovery for the blueprint, but I did not see the link, so I don't know the inputs. Obviously, this pristine Spina carapace is going to be an input, and since I didn't see even the inputs, I have absolutely no idea what the armor plate itself will look like. But that is what these pristines will be used for. These are not to be confused with the pristines that are the rare drop on planet Cyrene. These are totally different. So these items all have very low TT value, only 1 pec TT value. And for those, this one has 2 peg TT value, but there's 2 of them for sale, so 1 peg each. And for those of you who understand how loot works, you understand this is similar to almost like looting a token. But keep in mind, these are going to be rare drops. And they are going to have tremendous, tremendous markup. So if you're going out actually trying to farm these materials yourself, be aware you're going to have to go through various maturities of Spina in order to do that. You're going to have to go to Crystal Palace to get the Aurli Bone Pieces. And keep in mind, you're also going to have to farm the blueprint because it's a limited blueprint. So since it gets used up and goes poof and you have to get another one, you're going to have to be able to farm the blueprint as well. But there are opportunities galore between farming the carapaces, farming the blueprints, farming the Aurli Bone Pieces. If you're wanting to go after some good markup, this is a great way to do it. And if you're wanting to make some great items that are going to be highly in demand, highly valuable, and have tremendous amounts of utility, both in events, in hunting, and in going after markup, these new armor plates, even though they're limited in nature, they're going to have all of those across the board. Now, I have not yet seen a 5B perfected plate, so beyond making the assumption that the 5B and 6A perfected plates will have the 5% block chance, as they should, that's why the name is perfected, I cannot tell you anything else about the plates. I can't tell you the durability or the actual protections they provide, but this is very, very, very exciting. These plates are going to be in very, very, very high demand, which means that these carapaces and the Aurli Bone Pieces are going to be in great demand as well. And we can see that already from the markup that the carapaces are demanding. So now that you've got all this information, if you have CP shares, you know what you can expect: more revenue, more value. If you're a hunter and you're wanting new ways to make money, go after the markup from these carapaces, go after the markup from the Aurli Bone Pieces, and go after the blueprints. Try and farm them, see if you can get your hands on some. So this is a huge, huge change to the game. I'm so glad to see that they finally did this. It has always bothered me that there was never a perfected version of the 5B plate. Considering that's how all the armor plate upgrade chains end, is with perfected. It's really bothered me for a long time that 5B stopped with augmented. So I'm glad to see that they did it. I'm glad to see that it is through this new Spina event. I'm glad to see that these plates are limited in nature. I'm glad to see that they've included regular Aurli Bone Pieces and how that's going to affect Crystal Palace and Crystal Palace shares and shareholders. Overall, this is absolutely amazing. And I cannot believe that more people are not talking about it, because this is going to change so many things in so many ways. It's mind-blowing. So I really want to give MindArc a huge shout out. I know I rag on them all the time when they do stupid stuff, but this is probably one of the best implementations of an idea that I have seen from MindArc. This is across the board. Good job, good job, good job, good job, MindArc. And as I've said before, guys, if I'm going to be your biggest critic when you screw something up, I've also got to be your biggest fanboy when you did something right. And in this case, I think MindArc did it right. So, good job, MindArc. When I made the first video about the Flight of the Scarabs event and the Spina creatures, remember, I couldn't figure out, why is the smallest Spina level 50? That's insane. Most people can't even reach to that level. Well, now it makes sense, because we need those carapaces to make these plates. These are not plates just everybody should be able to make. It should be a higher level mob that drops the stuff that we need to make these plates. So I'm very excited to see these plates in game. I'm very excited to see all the ways it changes the way we do events and interact with the game, and how it affects CP shares moving forward. I think it's just another great reason to own CP shares. So guys, I will leave it there for today's Tip, Smack, Smack. Y'all know the rest. Head over to earnped.com, because when you earn, we earn. Obviously, the best way you guys can help support us. And guys, as you know from my other videos, you guys are making a huge, huge, huge difference just by hitting subscribe and the bell icon and the like button. It takes you 1 second. Once you hit subscribe and the bell icon, you're done. That's it. You don't have to do it again. Now you're up to date on all the newest content we post, and we try and keep you up to date on all the stuff going on in Entropia, all the changes that are being made, events that are going on, and ways you can play smarter, not harder. And then when you hit the like button, yes, you have to hit it on every single video, but when you do, it really does a tremendous job of helping us combat the haters and trolls that are out there. And it only takes a second. It's absolutely free, and it lets us know that you guys appreciate the content we're putting out and want us to continue putting out more. But more importantly, it gets us on the right side of the YouTube algorithm, and YouTube starts giving us that reach, starts putting us in front of other people it knows are into PC games and MMOs and real cash combat gaming. We got another email yesterday saying, hey, would you please let your subscribers know? I was just messing around on YouTube. I'd never even heard of Entropia before. One of your videos popped up. I clicked on it. I started watching the video, then the channel. I absolutely love this game. I have totally fallen in love with Entropia Universe. Would you please let your viewers know that they did that? That is the impact they're having, sharing this game, this hobby, this passion of ours with the world. They've shared it with me simply by hitting the like button. So please thank them for me. So guys, you're doing a tremendous job of helping to get exposure for these videos and helping to share this game that we absolutely love with people who are falling in love with it for the very first time. And it's all because of you. I can make the videos, but you guys are what get these videos in front of other people. So guys, please keep it up. Hopefully we'll have some 5B and 6A perfected plates very, very, very soon, and we'll start implementing those into the hunting that we do. And there's a lot more changes that are coming in the near future that we'll be talking about. We've got some content about changes coming to Halloween Mayhem we'll be letting you guys in on. We're still working on the Siren video series, and we've got a lot more to release on that. And we have a brand new video series that we're currently outlining that we'll be working on soon that I think everybody is just going to go gaga for. So I think you guys are really going to like it. There's a lot of good stuff in store. Thank you guys for all the support. Till next time, sip, sip, smack, smack. Take care, Stevies.